Hello, fabulous Phoenixes. I am so excited to be wishing you a very happy new year. And for our first month in January, our first month of 2023, I really wanted to give you guys something special that you could sink your teeth into. And who best than to give you something special with than Niki Sue, my astrology friend. She's amazing. I know you guys watch the New Moon Musings, and so you're familiar with her. And I invited her in and I said, listen, I want to do something really special, really in depth, that gives you a lot of meaning, a lot of juicy tidbits that you can't get just anywhere else. So thank you, Niki Sue, for coming in and humoring me and gracing all of my fabulous Phoenix members with your presence, your wisdom, your knowledge. Just so excited to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So Phoenixes, here's what's happening. I could very easily do a spread today where I pick a card every single month. Everybody does it. Most of you have done my year in preview as well. So you've already kind of got a gist of what's coming down the pike for you personally. So I really wanted to do something different, something a little bit unique. And what came to me, you know how my guides are, all of a sudden, I had this little inspiration. I'm like, I wonder what this would be like. And then whoo, it comes down, in this big wave or this waterfall. What came through was 7 questions that we're going to do a card pull with, and then Niki Sue is going to comment on each of those card pulls. But before I get into that spread, Niki Sue and I were just talking about this, and so it's very poignant. 2023 is a 7 year. What does this mean? You guys know I always talk about it like it's the prototype, it's the prototype that you've created just before it goes into mass production. Or we can say it's the list that you're creating, and you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure that everything is exactly where it needs to be before you tell the universe, yes, this is what I want, universe. This is what I'm manifesting. Bring it on. I'm open to receiving it. It's a lot easier to fix something in the prototype phase than it is to fix it in the mass production phase. And so this is kind of a little bit of the energy of what we're moving into in 2023, that we are in the process of creating something new, but we have the opportunity to fine tune it. So think of that this year when you're sort of looking at your own visions, your own goals, your dreams, your desires, and saying, okay, let me just take one more pass at it before I actually say, yes, let's put that out into the world. Is this really serving what it is that my ultimate goal and vision is? And Niki Sue and I were just talking about something else entirely, and share with them the card that you pulled, which I think is funny.
You were actually telling me about a friend whose favorite number is 7, by the way. I just remembered that. This was a few minutes before I pulled this card. This feels very appropriate for the energy of 2023. So it's a 7 year. In numerology, when you add up the numbers of the year, that gives you the card for the year. And so the 7th card of the Tarot is the Chariot.
So she actually pulled the 7 card, and when she pulled it, we kind of chuckled about other stuff. And then I'm like, oh yeah, the 7, it's like 2023. And she goes, yeah, well, this is the card. This is the card for 2023. I'm like, oh my God, duh, of course it is. So I thought that was just brilliant that you picked that.
I always pull a card when we're working together, when we're collaborating. Sometimes it's just before, when I'm kind of building an altar to set the context for our collaboration. And so like this was really appropriate. Also, it does relate to the astrology of the year. Mars is in Gemini. It's been in Gemini since August. It went retrograde in October. And it will exit its retrograde in January. And then it will go direct until March. And then when it goes direct, it'll be in Cancer. And This is the Cancer card. And Mars doesn't go retrograde in a sign very often. Last time was 2020. So it's been a very significant astrological aspect this year. Mars in Gemini, it's there for 7 months. So there's a lot of like energy and drive and ambition to Gemini things, which is curiosity and study and learning and being interested, creative, and coming up with ideas. And it sounds like maybe you Phoenixes are working that way with Stacey.
A little bit, yeah. I think there is some of that creation that's coming through. And I found it interesting that you said for 7 months. Again, the number 7.
Yeah.
So we're getting it. We're getting I always say the triple whammy. Do you remember that game show years and years ago where it was like you get a whammy and it would like hit something on the head? I always think of that. And I used to love that show. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was super fun. Anyway, so we got a triple whammy. We got the 777s, right? And I think that's actually in Vegas. That's a good thing to get too. That's like a winner when you get 777s.
I think that's the emoji for like the slot machine is like, it's the sevens. It really is. You'll look on your phones. And you know, that's funny. 7 in numerology is a very important number. It's like the master genius number. It was like God took 7 days for the week, and in creation, it indicates that there's been maybe like some of struggle that's happened, but that the 7 is this magic of master intelligence.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I have a client who shared with me that I always see 9 as completion, the number of completion. She shared with me that 7 is her number for completion. She connects to it in those ways. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because there is a lot of completion energy I feel that we are moving into. We're really closing the door. Now, 2022 was definitely door closed on, I want to say, on COVID in general, or the nature of COVID and how we have been for the last couple of years with it. But this year could really symbolize a complete closure of all the old, of all that we no longer can connect to. We just simply can't go backwards. We can't go backwards. We can only go forward. So I think that's really cool. Awesome. All right. So guys, you're going to see me sort of flipping back and forth because I've got my questions recorded. So if I look like I'm reading off the screen, it's because I am.
Me too. I'm looking down at this too. And
yes, just to sort of keep myself on track. So our first card pull of 2023 is, what is the theme of 2023 for the collective? And actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I am going to pull a card here, but I also want you guys to know, and you're going to get this information in the membership as well as in your newsletters and all sorts of stuff, but I'm giving you a sneak peek. I was channeling the other day and channeling my guides to say, you know, what are some of the themes? What is coming through for the collective as well as, you know, on an individual level? And the overarching theme for 2023 from a collective perspective is creative fusion, reciprocal love, and the ownership and accountability of that reciprocity. So we are opening up into a very creative fusion, out with the old, bringing in our own creative energies, following our own paths and our own visions. And through that experience, that energy gets infused into the collective, and we start to build that new vision of the collective. It's a fusion of your individual energy blended with the collective energy to create something brand new and reciprocal. All of us, every single one of us, and Niki Sue, maybe there's some astrology that lean into this as well. This is a year where we really need to focus on that idea of reciprocal love. If I am in relationship with you in some capacity, if there is a connection between us, it has to be reciprocal energetically. Love as frequency, not as feeling. I have to feel reciprocally like there's true connection, there's true desire on both parts to be in this connection. Anything that isn't reciprocal, we're going to notice this year, it doesn't last. It can't sustain itself. And I feel like that's really important. So we'll see what the card pull is. And then Niki Sue, if you have something around that.
I mean, what comes to me right away is just Aquarius and how important Aquarius is in the upcoming year, and as well as Pisces. Yeah. So Jupiter will enter Pisces, I think, in a few days. And or excuse me, Jupiter will enter Aries, but still in Pisces. So it's closing the Pisces chapter. And now I see that you've picked
Knight of
the
Cups.
Knight of Cups, which would relate to Pisces, because Pisces.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is that Cups energy.
So it's like higher love. And that to me is the feels there is like the journey of higher love.
Yeah, it is love as frequency, not as feeling. So I love that. The theme, then we could say, that creative fusion of that reciprocal love as frequency, right? So Knight of Cups is such a beautiful, warm energy, because it is that, in many ways, it is the knight in shining armor. And of course, I say this, and every time I say it, I have to come up with a different saying, because I actually don't purport to all of that. I think that's kind of, sort of old energy, old school thinking, that we really need to be our own knights in shining armor, showing up for ourselves. It's rescuing ourselves kind of thing. But in the tarot, knights are always about the quest, and cups is that ocean of emotion. It is how we're feeling about things. It is the realm of the psychic from a feeling perspective. Think sacral chakra. And so I feel very much, when we're talking about the theme of it, as Niki Sue so beautifully put it, it is that higher love energy. And it's understanding that it's not love as feeling, it's connecting to everyone and everything around me, and understanding that each thing has its own frequency. It has its own vibration, and my vibration can connect to that vibration, even if just for a short period of time. And that is the quest, to know one another from a frequency perspective. To understand, it doesn't mean that, let's say you get to know someone's frequency and you're like, yeah, this frequency rubs me the wrong way. There's friction here. You're still getting to know it, and you're learning something from that information. And you're saying, okay, this frequency doesn't feel good to me. So this is not a frequency that I'm going to, make a whole point to invest my time and energy into. I know that it's there. I know what that's about. And I can save that up for a little bit later and say, okay, when I run into that type of frequency, I don't have to be afraid of it, because I do have some awareness and understanding. And that is the journey, bringing more awareness of our own frequency into the collective, and bringing awareness of other people's frequency in relation to our own, so that we can interact and coexist and co-create with, I want to say, non-judgment, with support, with a true understanding that each person has their own path and their own journey. So this year, when we're talking about this as a theme, this is something that maybe once a month you want to put into a little bit of a ritual or a process for yourself, to remind yourself, this month, here's how I'm going to bring in my own higher love. Here's how I'm going to connect with that higher frequency for myself. And here's how I'm going to observe how others in my life are affected by that. Make it a little bit of an experiment, and pay attention to, when I make this shift, or when I show up in this way, here's how I'm received. Here's how I'm received by the collective. Here's how I'm received by this particular individual in my life. Here's how I'm received by my group of friends. And observe it. Use that information, because it is information that allows you to, quite frankly, go higher and higher. And the higher we go, the more we are able to actually manifest what it is we really, truly want.
So what's coming to me is really heavily is, this card you have has is a different card than the traditional card, which would be this. This is a different card, but Chariot, it reminds me of the Chariot, because with the knights, they're usually on some kind of vehicle. So in the Rider-Waite deck, they're on a horse, and in other decks, they're on, and yeah, there's the horse. So
He's not on a horse. The
which
horse
really indicates the journey or the quest that you speak about. And it's cups, and cups is all the water signs. So I mentioned Pisces as an important water sign for 2023. as well as Cancer, and this is the Cancer card. So it's really appropriate that you pulled a card that is related to the water signs. And when I think about Cancer, you know, this is about nurturing. This is about Cancer loves to nurture others, and it's also a reminder to nurture the self. And so that goes right into what you were saying and into the bigger picture card for 2023. So this is a reminder to just like come at home to yourself, because when you can do that, you're more present for the rest of the world.
Yes, and it's all about presence. I also just want to point out super quick, because I'm noticing this. He's a suitor, so he's got the bouquet of roses, and on his little picnic blanket here, he's got a letter, a sealed letter. And I'm really called to suggest to each of us, whether it's just this month as you're watching this, or whether maybe you make that part of your sort of routine for each month, that maybe you're writing a letter to your previous month's self, and you're writing a letter to your next month's self, tapping into this creative fusion and reciprocal love. And maybe the focus is on, how did you experience love as frequency this past month, and how do you think you're going to receive it, or what do you feel that future self needs to know? I feel like this might be a really fun experiment to do if we're doing it month by month. It's not like year where you have to wait a long time for it. And every month you get to open up this little letter that you send. It doesn't have to be really long. It can be, you know, a couple of lines for each. But I feel like I need to remember this, Niki Sue. Maybe you and I can do this as well, along with we have our own personal ritual with our new moon musings. We do one for sort of the collective, and then we also do our own personal ones together. Maybe that's something we can do too, is a little writing to our old self and a writing to our new self month to month. But
I love that.
Throwing that out there. Yeah.
You know what? It so reminds me of the signification of Mars in Gemini, which is this 7-month quest. And I mean, even in that card, it like reminds me, Mars is like passion and drive and like doing something, making something happen. And then Gemini's communication. So that letter, so the passion of holding the flowers, the communication of the letter. And Gemini is also the twins. That reminds me of those two parts of the self. So like that, yes, that's just a big yes.
Love that. And it's very tied into sort of the transformative ways to understand how you're shifting and changing, because this year is a big shift and change year. A lot of things are going to happen super fast, faster than we are even anticipating. We thought 2022 flew. 2023 is a whole different ball game. So awesome. All right. Card number 2. Oh, it just flipped out. What do we need to know about this theme for our physical being? So we pulled a pentacle card, which I think is really interesting. Pentacles is the energy, I call it health and wealth. It is the energy of the physical, thoughts becoming things in reality. And this card is all about, the way that I read this card always is about investment or reinvestment. And it's interesting because Niki Sue talked about, you know, the self-love piece. What do we need to know about our theme? What do we need to know about this Knight of Cups and all of this reciprocal stuff? We need to know on a physical level how we're choosing to take care of our bodies, what we are choosing to invest in. And I'm going to say to you here, like the chariot, you can think of your body as a chariot. It is the vehicle that gets us from A to B. It's the vehicle that we use while we are here in this earthly plane to live out our soul purpose, to have the experiences that our soul signed on to have, to be able to be in the free will space of what we are choosing to connect to. And the number 6 is harmony, balance, and alignment. So I feel like from a physical perspective this year, it's super important that you really take some time. And I want to say quality time, maybe after this reading, sit down for 10 minutes and really give some thought. Tune into the body. What does my body need right now? What does my body want to, how does my body want to participate? You know, we don't ask ourselves those things. We don't ask certain aspects of ourselves those questions. But yet your physical being is such an important part of this entire journey. So why wouldn't we involve it? Why wouldn't we ask it, in essence, for its opinion, right? And I put that in air quotes because, you know, the body, the mind, all of those things, they're not necessarily beings in the way that we think of them as being, but they have an energy, and that energy needs to be recognized and realized. So how are you choosing to reinvest in your body this year in order to be able to be reciprocal in your relationships and to really be in that creative flow? Because anytime we're creating, creation is chaotic. Creation is messy. Creation takes a lot of effort. So how do you support the body while you're in this creative fusion experience? It's all delicious and wonderful, and it takes a lot of energy. So how are you going to invest in the body to support you in that?
Kind of reminds me of this Taurian energy that we've been in the last few years. Uranus has been in Taurus, and anyone who has any Taurus placements have been subject to a lot of change. Uranus is about change, innovation, doing things in a totally different way. It is the planet of liberation and break free energy. So this reminds me of like really feeding into that. And what will happen in 2023 that will really push this more is once Jupiter, who currently is in Pisces, will be entering Aries at the end of this year.
Water sign, fire sign.
Aries, but then it'll enter Taurus. And so this will really push that. And it really reminds me of like being just in this card, generosity towards what you need to do in your body, and understanding it even ties in with the previous card in that way, where there's going to be some kind of nurturing that we're invited to do that's going to help to facilitate this change.
I love that.
And being open to it and understanding that Jupiter is the planet of abundance. Jupiter usually is like a yes, and it's usually known to be the most benefic planet. And so it's good luck and fortune, but it can be a lot too. So just understanding and being really like, you know, generous with yourself and understanding and not overdoing either. And sometimes we overdo, and it might be to pull back on that.
Yeah.
I tend to be very active, and sometimes it's like overly active. For me, being generous with my body is to like pull back a little and rest. You know, yesterday I was exhausted, and instead of pushing through and doing my workout, I took a bath. So that is like, yeah, you have to recognize those things and just breaking free from those old habitual patterns. And also Taurus energy is about sustainability and practicalness. What's practical for you?
Yeah, I love that. What is practical for you? What is practical for you? Great question. All right. Number 3, what do we need to know about this theme for our mental being? So connecting to that mental energy. What do we need to know? Holy shitballs, guys. We got another 6 of Cups. And I'm just going to point out that 2022 is a 6 year. So I find it interesting that 6s are showing up right now when we're talking about the physical and the mental, because 2022 has been very physically and mentally challenging to a lot of different people. 6 of Cups is a card of nostalgia. It's a card of reminding you not to get too hung up on the past. And so when we are connecting to the mental energy, it's really about understanding that love comes through all of the generations. Love comes through, it transcends time and space, is what I want to say. It transcends memories and things that we hold on to. It's always going to be there for you, because love is an energy, and energy never dies. You know, it simply shifts and changes form. So 6 of Cups is inviting you to, I want to say, be nostalgic without getting stuck in the past. tapping into those beautiful memories of when you were a young child and connecting with your young pet, or, you know, having the first experience of ice cream, you know, ice cream for the first time, or, you know, if you happen to be lucky enough to go to Disney World when you were a kid, you know, what was that experience like? Going to a theme park, you know, doing a roller coaster for the first time. Really thinking about those experiences that opened your eyes, you know, and for some of you, those experiences were little things. They were the day-to-day that, you know, you really brought it into the finite. And for those of, and for some of you, it was those bigger moments that really made an impact. So when we're talking about our mental being and our mental state, it's important that we, I want to say, access through time, you know, so without this idea of time, you know, just sort of like accessing this feeling without getting connected to the fact that it was connected to the past, or I was this age when this happened. It's more like going into that space and feeling the energy again, because when you connect to that energy, you're able to bring that into your now. You're experiencing it in your now. What do you want to do with it? And when we're talking about sort of creative fusion, when we're talking about higher love and reciprocity and ownership, it is owning the fact that this is an experience that I had. This is a delightful experience that I had, and I can have it again. I don't have to recreate it exactly for what it is, but I can use the elements of it to be able to really be present in my now and to bring some of that deliciousness back into my space. We have been through the ringer for the last 3 years. This is now time to say, no, I'm not going to do a lot of the heavy lifting this year. I'm not going to work extra hard in order to be able to, you know, achieve more or get faster or get farther. I'm instead going to go into the ease and flow of tapping into what I already know. And this eases my mind. This means I'm not always in such a state of anxiety or rumination, trying to sort things out, you know, having 57 different, you know, options or contingency plans. You know, if something doesn't work out, it's really an invitation to stay present. I'm also going to say the mental being, we receive our intuition through this part of our body. It's the third eye. When we receive that intuitive guidance, a little bit different than the psychic guidance, we receive the intuitive guidance through the third eye. It's at the same spot as our minds. So they share space. So I want to say, you guys know, I always, sort of talk about this idea of having an apartment in your mind. Think of it like having that messy roommate. You know, you're the straight arrow and you've got a messy roommate, and you're like, okay, like you do you in your room and I'm going to do me in my room. Right. And, or vice versa. I happen to be more of the neater one, and the messy drives me nuts. And I'm sure my neatness, you know, drives someone else nuts, but it's the idea of that energy in your mental space. It's understanding, okay, we can coexist peacefully here. It's about tapping into what the love, the feeling, the connection, the reason why we're here together. So reciprocal energy, creative fusion. Again, creativity can be chaotic. But then there's also that beautiful result at the end. And if we're talking about that higher love space, we need to have room for it in our minds. So where are you making room in your mind for that experience of love in all capacities? Where are you making room for that in your mind? And maybe sometimes it's, I need to let go of some crazy thoughts that are happening in my brain in order to be able to make room for that.
There's so much about that you've pulled that card in this moment that's coming to me. One, first of all, the 7 being an experience, and then having like this higher intelligence, and that being part of that first card feeling, even with the Chariot for the year card. Then also just, again, cups. And this one is really very Cancer-like, because nostalgia is one of the themes for Cancer. It's nostalgia. Nostalgia is wonderful, but can keep us stuck in the past. And so we don't want to be stuck in the past. The fact that you mentioned the present moment description with ice cream is astounding to me, because I'm currently teaching a teacher training in yoga. And I used that description to describe the state of yoga, which is a state of pure presence where thought construct is gone and you're not in subject, object, or any kind of identification. That's pure presence. And I described eating ice cream. I was like,
funny.
you can eat. And so, because it's an aesthetic experience.
Yes.
And so I'm cracking up because that was yesterday. Yeah, I'm cracking up. So that's true. It's like this state of like being like in pure awareness. I mean, of course we relate every situation to what we know of it from our past experience. But if we really want to feel that deep sense of joy, one must suspend that kind of way of thinking or the habits of the mind in order to be in that state. So I love that you've related it to that card, and I never even thought of that card in that way. However, when I really do think of numerology around 3, 6, and 9, and you and I have discussed this before, and I'm sure we've talked about it in our readings, you know, the 3 is like, it reminds me of things Venetian. It's like things that are immediately bring you joy, like eating that ice cream. It's very tangible, manifested feeling. Once you get to the 6, you start to recognize the other. And that card is about recognizing the other. And then in a 9, it's like, now you are one with the divine. So it's really this definite experience of coming out of your own story, but like being able to being really present in the moment with what is. And again, I go back to Cancer, because Cancer is like really seeing the other, nurturing, and some medicine of Cancer is nurturing the self, but it's also the acknowledgement of the other.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So what do we need to know about this theme for our emotional being? So noticing a theme here, we're tapping into the emotions of things in relation to, oh, I love this, in relation to the theme, which of course is that higher love, creative fusion, and the reciprocal love and ownership of that accountability. Niki Sue, you're going to laugh. We've got 4 swords. So the reason why we're sort of chuckling, and I'll just share this with you guys, my fabulous Phoenixes, this was my card for 2021. Like, I pulled it every single time Niki Sue and I connected to do some kind of spread, whether it was our new moon spread or other spreads. This was coming up for me like crazy. And 2021 was an extremely rough year for me on a personal level. And from a business perspective, there was just so much going on. I had a lot of tower moments, a lot of shock. And 4 of Swords is the card of truce. It's the card of rest, and it's rest from the mental energy. So I think it's interesting that this is coming up around our emotional being. I feel like the message coming through here is this year, it's really going to take us some concerted effort to quiet the mind. And this has been coming up a lot lately. I feel like the message here, and this has nothing to do with this card, but this is what's coming through. It's very much this year about integration of the ego, understanding that the ego is what creates the monkey mind. The ego is what creates the, I want to say, the conflict, the shift, the change. It's the ego that gets out of balance, gets overblown. So when we're talking about reciprocal love, this is also reciprocal love between you and your ego. It's not about cutting the ego out. We need the ego. The ego helps us with our motivation. It helps us to have a sense of self, to give us some level of confidence and motivation to be able to move forward towards our dreams. But when the ego is a little bit out of balance, we get too much caught up in our heads, and it keeps us stuck in place. You know, analysis paralysis. So I feel like this year, the 4 of Swords is coming up as a very clear, very bold reminder that for you to remain in the emotional balanced state that you need to be in to get to where you're going, to get where your desired, I want to say your heart's desires are taking you, You absolutely have to do a check-in with where the ego's at. And so we know the ego, talks about fear a lot. It reacts. The ego reacts and everything's big. I talk about it doesn't know the difference between the pain of ripping a Band-Aid off and amputating the arm. It just shows up as though it's a 5-alarm fire, regardless of the situation. So from an emotional perspective, the goal this year for each of us is really to bring that mind space into balance with our emotional state. And that feels really important. I'm really curious, Niki Sue, to see what you have to say astrologically around this. I feel like this is important. So I'm listening.
I honestly think I pulled that card for you as many times as you pulled it for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Last year. And we'd crack up, we'd text each other like the card.
And multiple different card decks.
Yeah, it was just like,
yeah.
So that card to me, when I think of you, that's your card. And what's so cool about it, when I think about this, and I don't even think we've ever discussed this before, but this is the Jupiter in Libra card. And it's really, in order to take care of our emotional being, we need to be balanced in the mind. Because when the mind is being pulled in one way or the other, we tend to be caught up again, and it takes us out of that peaceful state. To be in this peaceful state where we're really resting the activities of the mind, which is just the human condition. There's no getting away from that. But even when in the previous card, when we were just talking about that state of pure awareness, one has to really be able to rest the mind to be in that state. And that state creates emotional stability. To be in that state of balance is emotional stability. Jupiter is an abundance, and Libra is of balanced. Libra is an air sign, so it's the mind. So it really relates. And you have an abundance of Libra in your chart.
Yes, I do. I have an abundance.
House, the first house of the self. And so it really is occurring to me right now, I'm having an epiphany around you and your Libra-ness, and how important it is that you get that rest. And so that's a message for the collective as well.
Absolutely. And it is going to be, as I said earlier, it's going to take each of us the effort to say, okay, I absolutely need to rest. I absolutely need it. It's not a desire right now. It's not a request. It's a necessity. And I'm going to do it. In fact, I want to say to each of you, get it on the calendar right now. Take at least one complete day of rest each month. Get it in the calendar now, because you know how it works. If it's not on the calendar, something else is going to, eat up that time, right? So put it in the calendar and make it a 4 of Swords day. Make it that it's not a mental health day. It's an emotional balance day.
And I want to say even more than once a month. And it's funny, the 4 is important too, because the 4 in the wheel of astrology, the 4th house is the house ruled by Cancer. This theme keeps coming up, this Cancerian theme, and Cancer is about rest. It is one of the key words for Cancer.
So what do we need to know about this theme for our energetic being? So we've got Ace of Pentacles. So this makes a lot of sense. When we're talking about our energetic being, this is the energy. How are we connecting to our energy? Ace of Pentacles is planting a seed. And I feel like this year, energetically, it's kind of already come through in a lot of the cards. It's being aware, coming into awareness of how we are shifting our energy on an individual level, as well as what we're putting into the collective. We're all creating something new, whether it's the macrocosm or the microcosm. And this is about you being really intentional, kind of like what I said about the emotional being. You're being really intentional now about the seed that you're planting from an energetic perspective. So this is kind of a big deal for everyone. I feel like this is an opportunity in a year where everyone's going to have the chance to up level significantly. It's not just up leveling one stairwell at a time, or one stair at a time. This is the opportunity to say, I can actually do leaps and bounds without missing the lesson, without missing the important jewels and gems and things that are on each of the stairs. Ace of Pentacles also, it's pure potential from, I want to say, the material or the physical realm. And this is, as I always say, Pentacles, it's thoughts become things, it's thoughts manifested. So energetically, I'm going to say, my energy leads me in a room. So what energy do I want to put in that room first? What energy do I want people to experience of me? What energy do I want to set the tone for wherever it is I'm going into, whoever I'm going to connect with, whatever environment I'm stepping into? I'm going to plant seeds, and I'm planting seeds for me, for my own solid foundation and growth. And I'm also planting seeds for anyone else who happens to walk into this energy, this room, this connection, needing a little extra support. I feel like that's really important. And that's sort of like a gift to the universe. That's a gift to the collective. It's a gift that each of us is going to be giving on an individual level.
I love that. That's so perfect. We will start ACE, the year, in a Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, which is Pentacles. So whenever we're in a retrograde period, this is an opportunity to reflect, revisit, realign. Any of the rewords are retrograde. How we are manifesting things in the Pentacles suit and in the Capricorn sign. And Capricorn is about building a foundation that's sustainable and that has a long-term kind of goal. So I feel like we can start 2023 with this energy of like, how are we going to have a sustainable goal? That's what are we reflecting on, and what is our plan for creating the sustainable goal? How can we really lasso our energy in order to make it last and it be a commitment over time that we can stick with? This is sort of the energy that's rolling here. And it reminds me of the last card too. Each card that you've pulled today plays into the one before, each question as well. But we need to make sure that we are like more balanced in our emotional state, balanced in our minds in order to manifest Pentacles, whatever we're birthing and planting the seed for. And I love that Mercury will be joining us at the beginning of the year to give us a moment of reflection. By the end of the month, 3 planets will go forward, and there'll be this like forward moving momentum. So I like, it's almost like we get a moment at the beginning of the year to kind of just have this reflection so we can be set up for success. And also Pentacles is about that success.
Love it. Love it. All right. So what action steps are we being invited to take regarding this theme? So we've got Page of Wands. So action steps that we're being invited to take. Pages are student energy. It's that pure potential, the pure potential of the ace, that now you're able to say, ooh, let me do a little investigation. Let me do a little research and see how I can really incorporate this into my life. See if it's something that I really do want to incorporate. And from a Wands perspective, it's very much about the soul. So I feel the action steps that we're taking, yeah, we're talking about higher love. We're talking about that sort of creative fusion, but let's talk about the creative fusion. We create from our soul space. We don't necessarily create from the heart space. We create from the soul space, and then what comes out of it comes through the heart. So it's almost filtered through the heart space. So if we're talking about a creative fusion, it is the creative fusion between heart and soul. And when we're looking at this Page of Wands, it's approaching it with the innocence. It's approaching all of your decisions this year with this, I want to say, the innocence, the awe and wonder, but also deep connection to the soul. I am embodying the soul and bringing that soul embodied out into the world. I'm walking my soul path. I'm walking my soul story and my soul growth out into the world. And I'm not afraid to, I want to say, be all I can be with that. I'm not afraid to expand into that. I'm not afraid for other people to see it. I feel that this is a big invitation this year to allow yourself to be seen. We all want to be seen and heard, but we all want to be seen and heard in our own, little bubble of comfort. And I'm hearing here that it's about taking a little bit of a personal risk and allowing yourself to be seen just as you are, and understanding that truly is higher love. That truly is that connection to that level of frequency and understanding. And that is contribution to the collective in big ways.
So this is really related to the transit of Jupiter in Aries, which will begin on the 20th of December, and we'll start the year in that energy. Jupiter reminds me of like that energy of that figure on the card that's like, oh, here I am. Also, the page reminds me of the 6th card that you pulled earlier of Cups, where it's about that nostalgia, the childhood nostalgia. But the figure on the page, or the page itself, really is about having that sort of innocence of the child, where each experience is new, so that we're not in the past. We're actually ready to go and be seen, be in the future, not be embarrassed, like a child. And Aries is this energy of being seen. Aries loves to be seen. Aries isn't afraid to put himself out there. Aries isn't afraid to start something new. That Aries energy is so passionate and so fiery, and it's ready to go, go, go. There's nothing stopping the Aries. And with a lot, Jupiter, of that Aries drive, you can accomplish anything you want. All those dreams can come true.
Beautiful. I love that so much. Hi guys, so we had a little bit of a pause. We both had to kind of run and take care of some errands, but we're back. You might notice a little bit of the lighting change. That's what's going on. So we are tapping into question 7. And question 7 is, how can we interact with and integrate this energy for our highest and best? Ooh, Niki Sue, King of Cups. So when we're talking about that creative fusion, I feel like King of Cups is a great card to reflect this, because Cups energy really does connect with our creative flow. It's the ocean of our emotion. It's that sacral chakra energy. And we're connecting with the King card. It's all about that mastery, the teamwork, the collaboration, but also the mastery of it. And I feel like what's transpiring here, how can we interact and integrate with this energy for our highest and best? It's owning our mastery. It's really coming into, I want to say, coming into complete focus on the fact that we do not have to be slaves to our emotions. Again, I bring up love as frequency, not as feeling. It doesn't mean we don't have feelings. It doesn't mean we don't express our emotions. It's that we understand the place that those things hold, and we aren't in a space of reaction. We're in a space of response. And King of Cups is giving us, I want to say, permission in essence to really lean into that truth, to lean into that mastery, and say, when we're talking about Knight of Cups coming in and that higher love space, we have the capacity to create it for ourselves. And that's by observing that ocean of emotion rather than taking a really deep dive into it, and really understanding that we can master our energy by understanding how we feel about things and how we feel about life. So I feel very much that this connects to our creative fusion message and what we're contributing into the world. We are fusing into the collective this understanding and this concept of we don't have to be slaves to our emotions.
Yeah, this is bringing up again the Mars in Gemini 7-month transit we're in right now, and that when Mars moves forward in Gemini after the retrograde in January, we're going to be in a time where we really can move forward in the direction of our creativity, and that which we reflected on it will be fuel for that fire. And then Mars will move into Cancer, which will be a little more going back into a little more of reflective energy again, but we still have that inertia to keep going. Mars will always bring drive. It will still allow us to pursue our interests, but with a little bit more softer approach. Well, Jupiter also, which reminds me of the king, Jupiter in Aries, which is what Mars rules the sign of Aries, will also bring in that abundance of like drive, let's go. However, I think it's going to be tempered a little with the Cancer feels for the year, and even in its Cancer year. So I think this will create more of that balance that we're searching for, more of that balance that the Four of Swords gave us as well.
Yeah, that this Four of Swords is inviting into our space. And I have to point out, we're getting a lot of cups. So you're right. It really, the cards are reflecting that Cancerian sort of energy when we're talking about the Seven and the Chariot. So I love that. That's amazing. All right. Question 8. What will this year bring to humanity? And I thought this was kind of a cool question to come through. Oh, interesting. All right, the cards flipped over. So I thought this was interesting when I was sort of channeling or downloading these questions, because we often don't think about that when we're doing reflection. We're reflecting based on our own needs, our own life, our own selves. But we all here who are connected in this membership, we're all in service. Yeah, we're learning about ourselves, but we're also very much in service to others and want to see humanity, arrive in style to elevate into the highest potential and the highest version we can become. So what will this year bring to humanity? Wait for it. The Devil. So definitely feeling here like what we're tapping into. I see this card as a card of rebellion, spiritual selfishness in positive ways. I also see this as reflective of the shadow, the work that needs to be done in the shadow, breaking of patterns and cycles. And that's what I'm really feeling here when we're tapping into this reading. What will this year bring to humanity? An awareness of the unhealthy, perhaps addictive patterns and cyclings that we have been in for some time, and giving us the permission to rebel against those things, to bring in a new way of being. And we've been talking about this through the whole reading. It's, what are we contributing? Everything that you're doing on an individual level is reflecting in the collective. So what you're, sort of what the year is bringing to humanity is an awareness of these unhealthy patterns and cycles that you are now actively shifting and changing because of the choices that you're making, because of the way that you are connecting to that higher love frequency. And again, it's a fusion of, I'm doing things a bit differently. I'm being creative in my approach, and that is being reflected in the collective, and that changes things. That shifts things in really big ways. Also, for all of us, we all have our vices. We all have the shadow work that we need to do. What I'm feeling here is it's an accountability of your humanity. It's an accountability of that shadow work that needs to be done. So I'm not saying we're all going to be taking, emotional deep dives. I don't feel that this year. But what I do feel is when you are being invited to I want to say, sort of an ego party, where you're recognizing, my ego is popping up here. My ego, my unbalanced ego is popping up here and making some noise. What does that mean? What do I need to know about this? This is kind of interesting. The Devil card is inviting you to take a look at that and be able to say, okay, now's the time to maybe do some things differently. I don't have to follow suit with the way things have been done in the past. In fact, I need to be accountable for how I'm feeling. I need to be accountable for these things that are coming up. Own it, be transparent about it, and then move on. Tell my guides, okay, that's interesting. Thank you for showing me this pattern that I would like to break out of, or thank you for showing me that there's a little more shadow work to be done. And now help me to work through it in a light way. Help me to work through it so that I'm not weighed down into that ocean of emotion, and I am still remaining in that higher frequency of love.
This is Pluto in Capricorn, the transit we've been in 20 years. We are right now in the United States Pluto return. 250-year cycle. We have been challenged, especially through the pandemic, to look at Pluto in Capricorn, which is the return, which is the sign in which Pluto has been in the past 20 years, which is about our structures. It's about our government. It's about all the things that have been our framework or foundations in our systems, whether it be financial or health. All of that stuff has been an upheaval in the past few years, particularly in the pandemic. And we have been really looking at that stuff and seeing a huge transformation, which is the planet Pluto. Pluto is the phoenix. Pluto is where everything kind of blows up. So Pluto has been blowing up all of our foundations and like really looking at that, particularly in the US. In March of this year, Pluto will finally make a short visit in Aquarius. Aquarius is society. Aquarius is not the boundaries and foundations of society, but society itself. And it's about humanity, and it's about the humanitarian. It's about looking at things in a different way. It's androgyny. It's no longer all this boundary stuff, but it's seeing the expansiveness and the growth that we can have. We're going to see that in technology, which is Aquarius. We're going to see that in mental health. Perhaps we're going to find new ways to deal with that. I really feel like this is related to this card, which is Capricorn. So this is a chance to notice what we've seen, to acknowledge that we're in a huge, big process in the United States in Pluto and Capricorn, hence the card. And that when we get the taste of Pluto and Aquarius, we're going to see what the future, which is also Aquarian, the future has in store for us. Pluto will then return back into Capricorn. And so I really think that this is an opportunity to really look at what is in store for us in the future and what changes need to be made so that we cannot be constrained by the patriarchal framework that has defined us. And it's time to move into a new era where Pluto will then be. So I will be in 2024 where Pluto will come into Aquarius and stay there for another couple decades. But we'll get a taste in 2023 of what that's like. And it's going to be really liberating. It's going to be a break-free feeling. It's going to be a change. It's going to be a breath of fresh air. And Aquarius is an air sign.
I love it. I don't know about you guys, but I am really looking forward to that. I need some breath of fresh air. I definitely need that. I love that. That's great. I always love when the devil card comes up. Yeah, it's shadow work. It implies that there's some more work going on, but I love that it's sort of giving us that peek. It's like a sneak peek into what's to come. And I think that's important because it's going to help us to tweak our visions for, like you said, what needs to be done in order for us to prepare for that. So tweaking the visions. All right. What can you open to individually and contribute collectively? Now, this particular question, we've kind of been answering it all along, but I'm going to pull the card anyway, and it's actually a two-parter. So what can you open to individually and contribute collectively? How does your personal growth affect the collective energy? Like I said, we've been kind of talking about it all along, but I thought that we'll just pull a card for it anyway. So interesting. We've got 9 of Swords. So what can you open to individually and contribute collectively? It's an acknowledgement, a transparent acknowledgement of the grief, of the loss of what you're letting go, but also recognizing that all of this anxiety, all of this sadness, all of this grief has been caused by, I want to say, overthinking, overcomplication, trusting others' opinions over your own, trusting government, or trusting well-established corporations to have our best interests at heart. And I'm not trying to make a personal statement here, every company is a little bit different, but there's a lot of stuff going on, right? So this is saying, I'm going to acknowledge all of this feeling that I'm having, and I'm going to move beyond it. It's a 9. I'm closing the door on this. I'm no longer going to allow these feelings, this anxiety, these mistruths, miscommunications, these, whatever we want to call it. I'm no longer going to abide by this or simply believe this as my truth. I'm going to recreate what truth is for me. I'm going to step out of this sorrow, step out of this mental anguish, and I'm going to step into what it is that I'm creating. Creative fusion. I'm some really delicious stuff. And yeah, there's some really horrible stuff going on in the world, but I know that when I make these shifts for me now in this year, I am contributing to the collective in really powerful ways. And I know that I am that powerful, that my little life contributes greatly. It shifts in really big ways. And if I know that about myself, and I know that all of the other people that are watching this video also have that same capacity, oh, the places we'll go. Oh, the shifts that we will experience. So your personal growth, letting go of things that really, quite frankly, it's not that we're letting it go because because it doesn't exist anymore, we're forgetting about it. It's that we're letting it go because we've been trying to fix it in the old ways. You're bringing in the new. That's a big one this year. Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, this is bringing up for me a lot of this Cancer feels. And when Mars enters Cancer, this is a reminder that a lot of our thoughts and really control our moods. Mars is about control. Mars is about drive. It's passion, but it has a lot of feeling toward, or a lot of pushing towards that, the moods, and it's going to push us into that. But it's also the medicine of that is a reminder to like soften back from that, to see that when it's coming, to understand that and be able to regulate our moods. And it may bring us into more of a defensive feeling, and to acknowledge that that's just kind of in our head. When what's in our head, it brings us back to the present moment. Let's feel into the present moment, because this is like grief, and this is when we're negative thinking. I always think of the Nine of Swords as negative thoughts, and that happens sometimes in the dream world. I mean, that waking up from a dream and it being like, but realizing like what's real and what's not real, what's in our head and it's not. And a lot of what we consume in the media, what we're seeing around the world, really regulates our moods, and really knowing collectively, like, this is not always our own experience.
I love it. And you mentioned, I think in the previous card, about sort of our mental state, mental illness or mental state, or where we're at mentally. I feel like this is also indicating, when we're talking about the collective, that we are going to be paying a little more attention to that. I think your words were something to the effect of, we're going to find a different way to heal ourselves with that, or to deal with these issues and these problems. I feel that the Nine of Swords is coming up, sort of validating that statement for you from the previous card as well. I don't know why I'm getting that, but I feel like the Nine of Swords is basically saying, we don't have to do this alone. We don't have to be in this anguish and this agony any longer. There are other ways to be able to come into our own truth, to live that truth without fear.
In the Nine.
Yeah, and the Nine. So question 10, card pull 10. What energy can you lean into for support?
Are you going to pull a 10? Because you just pulled a 9 for question 9.
I did pull a 9 for question 9. And by the way, I meant to mention as well, the devil is also a 6. So we've had 3 6 cards in our reading as well. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're sort of leaving behind in 2022 that 6 energy. And yet it is, I want to say, foundationally sort of supporting this growth into the 7. So good point. So question 10, what energy can you lean into for support during the transformative events of this year? Oh my God, I love it. The Magician.
Aww.
Magician is great.
10. I mean, a 1, but same.
Yes, the 1. So it does match. You're right. It's that new beginning. It's that fresh start. And in the tarot, the Magician is the second card, the Fool being the first, which is a 0, pure potential And now the 1, how are you sort of moving forward? And the Magician energy is really about resources. It's creation for creation's sake, based on the resources that you have around you. Creative fusion. So what energy can you lean into for support during the transformative events of this year? Create for creation's sake, and don't be afraid to use the resources that are presenting themselves. I feel like each of us in this particular year is going to specifically have an opportunity, and I feel like each of us is going to know it when it happens, because it's going to be pretty profound, to really step into your own true magic. This is the magic this is the healer within you. This is, actually, I'm going to intuitive, but I don't mean intuitive. This is the psychic energy that is coming through. Yes, we are going to be having transformative events. That is a no-brainer. We are always in a phase of the Phoenix, collectively and individually. So it's a radical acceptance of that. And then it's stepping into the, okay, I'm going to create for creation's sake, because if it is creative fusion that is actually going to support me this year and support the collective this year, then I have the permission to, whatever is arising, whatever is presenting in my space, I have the power, I have the magic, I have the ability to transform or to use the energy of those transformative events to alchemize that energy into something that is going to be worthwhile for me and worthwhile for the collective. So the Magician energy, what I love about this particular depiction as well, is he's creating his own portal. And I feel like this can be every single one of us watching this video right now. You get to create your own portal. What are you putting into your own portal? And let's talk about what a portal is. A portal is a doorway or a window into another dimension, into another reality or another realm or another vision. And it's connecting energetically to that vision or that realm or that dimension. Each of us has the ability to do that. You can do that through meditation. You can do that through, connecting with your fur babies. You can do that through connecting with normally I say dream team, but I almost said soul team. So I'm going to say that, your soul team. It is about accessing that magic and alchemizing it through the process of creation. And again, the process of creation is chaotic. It's messy. It's supposed to be. Focus on the flow of it. Don't worry about the messiness. Don't worry about the final outcome. Don't worry about what it's all going to look like. Lean into the energy of the creation, because that is the whole purpose of this year, is what are we creating? Ooh, I got chills. I got chills. I got chills.
Ooh. I mean, this is bringing the divine to earth. Mercury is the ruler of this car. This is the messenger. Mercury is like opening up the year with its retrograde in Capricorn, which is earth. So the Magician is bringing the divine to earth. That is like the exact description of Mercury in Capricorn. I love it. You have a moment of reflection at the beginning of the year to make a plan of how you're going to manifest it. And you'll have the first few weeks of January where 3 planets by the 3rd week of January will go direct. And it's going to be go time at that point. There'll be a new moon in Aquarius where it's kind of like, here's a new start, like a number 1. Here's a new start to a whole new year, and it's go time. Bring the divine to earth. Let's bring all our dreams to the earthly plane and manifest what we really want to create.
Oh, God, it feels so good. I'm looking forward to this. All right, our final card for our reading today. What does the energy of 2023 want you to understand about yourself? This is going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see what you come up with, Niki Sue, here. 2 of Wands. This is a card of direction. This is a card of soul direction. This is a card of decision-making based on the soul flame energy, based on how your soul motivates you, not your heart space, not your mind, the soul energy. So the energy of 2023 wants you to understand about yourself that you have the ability to choose which direction you are going to take. And even though this card is sort of reflecting you might have option A or option B, I want to say to you, it feels more like a Phoenix rising situation where you have so many different options in front of you, so many different ways that you can, I want to say that you can present yourself, so many different ways you can go, so many different ways you can focus on your own soul growth. So which way or ways would you like to choose? It is an invitation to say, no option that you choose is wrong. No option that you choose is going to bring you to the wrong space or the wrong spot. So if you can't make a mistake, how does that change how you're going to approach this choice and this decision? 2023, in many ways, I keep hearing, is a choice. Every month of the year is going to be a choice. Every day in the year is going to be a choice. And it's a choice regarding how you're choosing to contribute to the collective based on how you're choosing to live out your own soul path. And that higher love piece, this card is all orange and it's like peachy colored. So it's kind of orange and yellow. So we're talking solar plexus chakra and we're talking sacral chakra in the mix. So feeling into that ocean of emotion, feeling into the creative expression and flow, and creating a new identity for the collective through creating or solidifying the identity that is you and who you are choosing to become. Huge, huge stuff.
I think this card reminds me of hope. It's hope and it's expansion. And we have Saturn in Pisces, which is this opportunity to really expand out of our boundaries, but to use our wisdom towards expansion and our not. This card is also like a choice to make a jump in our spiritual growth. And it's like, what do we need to bring up? What is the fire that we can tap into to really feel into that growth and expand out of any limitations, any self-negating, self-defeating habits that we've had and come into a place of higher love, higher expansion. Jupiter in Pisces, or Jupiter in when it is in Taurus, it's going to sextile the Pisces Saturn aspect, and it's going to bring in this idea of like being in this huge place of expansion, but like planting the seeds for major growth. When we have a choice, you have a choice to do that or not, to choose hope, to choose love, to choose partnership, yeah, it kind of is making me feel like you can go one way or the other, or can't we come together and integrate? And I feel like in that way, like of integration, we can create more.
Yeah.
More is more.
Yes.
I'm going to finish that with more is more.
And that's that collective piece that throughout this entire reading today, it's really been about the individual following their path in order to be able to step into the collective or to make shifts in the collective. So what you're doing for yourself, the choices that you're making for yourself are positively affecting the collective in some big ways. And that's a choice. That's a choice that we're all making. Wow, really powerful stuff. So I've written because we had a little bit of a pause, so it actually gave me an opportunity I just decided I was going to write a little affirmation. So here's an affirmation, and I'm going to, in post edit, I'm going to, put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. But here is our affirmation for 2023. I align myself to the frequency of higher love so that all my interactions reflect the reciprocity of source energy in my heart. I embrace all collective shifts, knowing I have contributed my truth creatively. I matter. So lean into this affirmation throughout the year. Maybe put it on a little Post-it note, put it in your phone so that it pops up every once in a while. Feel into it. I encourage you also to maybe repeat it 3 times to integrate it into your energetic field. It's not necessarily something that you have to say over and over and over again every single day, but it is something that I feel holds the energy of, I want to say it's the energy of our guides. It's the energy of the collective guides that are looking over Mother Earth. It's the collective guides that are looking over looking over and watching over humanity, as well as your own individual guides. How can you integrate, using your word, how can you integrate the energy? Speak this affirmation. Feel it into your body. And if it resonates with you, use it. Use it, use it. Wow, this is an amazing year. Niki Sue, thank you so much for coming in and offering all of this wonderful astrology wisdom, and just for sharing your energy with us. It's always great to be able to connect with you, and I'm happy to share you. I get you a lot more often, but I'm always happy to share you with my fabulous Phoenix members, because you know, we're all in this together, and these transformations that we're going through are not always easy. They're really not always easy. So having that extra support, having more tools to be able to access and to resource are really important. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You can find me at nikisueyoga.com. That's NIKISUE yoga.com. And I do natal readings and all sorts of different readings in astrology, tarot, and yoga. So in case anyone's interested, I'm also at Niki Sue 108 on Instagram. So thank you so
all
much.
That information into the portal for them so that they can access you, because I highly recommend getting an astrology reading. I like to get one at the beginning of a year just so that I know sort of what's to come, and then I can do sort of touch points throughout the year. But it's definitely a great way to support, you know, using all of these tools to support you as you're setting yourself up for success in this 2023. So yeah, it's time. That's your bell. Ding, ding, ding.
We're home. I gotta go. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. And we will see you fabulous Phoenixes throughout the month to share all that delicious transformational goodness. Ciao for now.